All right, let's dive into AmiBroker today, a seriously powerful tool if you're looking to step up your stock analysis game. We've got a bunch of cool sources here. It looks like some stuff from a PDF and then a whole collection of YouTube videos about how to use AmiBroker.
Yeah, we're talking like the whole 9 yards, from downloading it and installing it all the way to actually understanding the interface and setting up your data feed. So
Yeah.
by the time we're done with this deep dive, you'll have a really solid grasp of how to use AmiBroker for yourself, which I think is pretty essential if you're serious about the stock market.
Okay, cool. Let's get right into it. So the first thing is actually getting AmiBroker on our computers. And I saw in the YouTube video Q101-1-1 download AmiBroker that it mentions checking if our computer's 32-bit or 64-bit, like the architecture. Is that something we really have to worry about?
It's actually more than just some like techie detail. Picking the right version basically makes sure that AmiBroker can use like all of your computer's power.
Yeah.
Especially if you're doing some pretty complex analysis or working with those huge data sets. It's kind of like, imagine you're backtesting a trading strategy with thousands of data points. The 64-bit version, if your computer can handle it, will go through all those numbers so much faster, which honestly saves you a lot of time, and you can test way more ideas.
Right, that makes sense. So no shortcuts here. We got to download the right version for our system. It is nice, though, that the trial is available for both versions, so we can really try it out before actually buying it.
Totally. And talking about buying it, once you've played around with it, you'll have to figure out which edition you need. The Q101-2 Buy AmiBroker with discount code VIDEO goes through all the options, but it highlights the standard and professional editions.
Yeah, I was curious about that. What's the difference? It seems like standard is a good place to start, but the professional edition is where it's at if you want the real power, especially for real-time analysis. The video even talks about features like real-time scanning and coding, which seems super useful if you're actively trading.
For sure, the professional edition is really made for anyone who wants to go beyond, like, just the basics. So let's say you're putting together a trading strategy, and it's based on very specific price movements or indicators. Well, with the professional edition and those real-time capabilities, you can actually scan the market for stocks that fit exactly what you're looking for as they happen.
Oh, wow. So it's like having an alert system just for you that flags potential trades based on your own rules. I can see why that would be like a game changer if you need to move quickly with the market.
Absolutely. And being able to code your own indicators in the professional edition, that opens up a whole other world of analysis. So you're not stuck with just the standard indicators. You can make your own that fit your trading style and what you think about the market.
That's a pretty impressive level of customization, almost like getting a suit made just for you.
Right. And we can't forget about how much faster it is. The professional edition uses multiple cores in your processor, so it runs significantly faster. This is really noticeable when you're using those real-time features or working with large data sets.
So it's not just about having more features, it makes everything smoother and more efficient. You're not waiting around for the results, so you have more time to find those insights.
Exactly. And speaking of efficiency, that Q101-2 video, it actually walks through buying the software, which seems pretty straightforward. It even mentions a discount code. Always nice.
Who doesn't love a good deal, right? And they even have an Ultimate Pack Pro option, which includes some extra software. But if you're just getting started, I'd say stick with the single product license first, so you can really get a feel for AmiBroker before adding more tools. Kind of like baby steps, right?
Totally. Start with what you need, build a good foundation, and then explore the other stuff as your analysis needs change. So once you buy it, they email you a software key, and you use that to unlock everything in AmiBroker. Actually, the Q101 download AmiBroker video shows you the whole process, so it's easy to follow.
That's perfect for me. I'm definitely a visual learner. And speaking of visuals, I'm actually really curious to see what the AmiBroker interface is like. The Q101-3 AmiBroker interface video gives us a quick peek, but I'd love to hear more about how it's all laid out and what we can do with it.
Let's dig into that right now.
All right, so we've got AmiBroker downloaded, we picked our edition, and we're starting to get a feel for what the interface looks like. But now we've got to talk about the actual data. I mean, AmiBroker is all about analyzing stock market data, but like, where does it even come from? And how do we make sure we're not just drowning in information?
Right, that's where databases come in. Basically, a database is just a structured collection of all that stock market data that AmiBroker can then use to do its analysis. It's kind of like the library where you keep all your market research.
Okay, that analogy makes sense. I remember seeing a video about a specific database. It was called Q101-4 database for ABQC, and it focused on Thai stocks. What's the deal with that one?
Oh, yeah, that's a great database to get started with, especially if you're interested in the time market. It has a ton of historical data for like all sorts of Thai stocks, but it leaves out options and DWs. It even has those big indices like the SE50 and SET 100.
So it's basically like a pre-made package of data just for analyzing Thai stocks. Perfect for learning how to use the software and testing different analysis techniques.
Exactly. And adding it to AmiBroker is super easy. The video walks you through it. It's basically just copying the database file into the right folder in the AmiBroker directory. And once you've done that, AmiBroker can use all that data for, charting and all your analysis.
That's actually way easier than I thought it would be. But what if I'm interested in other stuff, not just Thai stocks? Like, what if I want to analyze U.S. markets or international indices? Where do I find that data?
Well, in that case, you might want to check out a service like Chart. They have a crazy amount of financial data, and there's actually a video that goes into detail about using their data in AmiBroker. It's called Q101-5 database from Chart.
Right, I remember that one. So Chart is a paid membership. It's like $500 a year, but you get access to a ton of historical data. They even have separate downloads for like data before 2014 and then from 2015 to now.
Yeah, it's a huge collection going all the way back to 1970. They even have data for DWs and options, which, depending on what kind of analysis you're doing, can be super helpful.
Wow, that's incredible. But honestly, it's kind of overwhelming. With all that data, thousands of stocks, indices, DWs, options, how do you even make sense of it all?
That's definitely a common problem when you're using these really powerful analysis tools like AmiBroker. The key is to be smart about how you organize and access the data, and that's where watch lists come in.
Watch lists, yeah, I saw those mentioned in the videos, but I didn't really get how they work or why they're important.
So basically, think of a watch list like your own, curated collection of stocks or other things that you want to keep track of and analyze. Instead of going through that massive database with thousands of symbols, you can create these focused lists just for what you're researching.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense. So instead of feeling overwhelmed by all this data, I can create smaller lists that are actually relevant to me or my investment strategy.
Right. So let's say you're into the tech sector. You could make a watch list with all the big tech companies you want to analyze. Or maybe you're more into value investing. Then your watch list would have stocks that fit your criteria for undervalued companies.
I'm starting to get it now. Watch lists are all about focusing your analysis and making the data work for you instead of the other way around.
Exactly. And AmiBroker has a bunch of ways to make and manage these lists. You can add symbols by hand, import them from a file, or even create these dynamic watch lists that update automatically based on certain rules.
Wait, dynamic watch lists, what are those?
They're like smart lists that constantly update depending on what you tell them to look for. So, for example, let's say you want stocks that have just hit new 52-week highs. You could set up a dynamic watch list, and it would add any stock that hits that condition automatically.
Oh, wow. So it's like a watch list that's always changing and adapting to the market. That's amazing.
It's super useful for staying on top of trends and finding new opportunities as they pop up. And it saves you from having to update your list manually, which can be a huge pain and easy to mess up.
This is making me realize choosing the right data and organizing it is just as important as the actual analysis. It's like getting all your ingredients ready before you cook. If you don't have the right stuff or it's all over the place, your dish isn't going to be as good.
I like that analogy. And speaking of ingredients, maybe we should talk about the different types of data you can use in AmiBroker and how they can affect your analysis.
Yeah, I was wondering about that. We've been talking about end-of-day data, which seems like the most common, but I know there's also intraday data, which captures everything that happens throughout the day. What's the difference, and why would I choose one over the other?
It really depends on how you trade and what you're trying to analyze. EOD data just gives you the closing price for each day, which is fine for a lot of long-term investors or people who are more focused on the big picture. But if you're a day trader, you need to make decisions based on what's happening right now. So you need intraday data.
So if I want to catch those quick swings and take advantage of the volatility, intraday data is what I need. But if I'm more into long-term stuff and fundamentals, then EOD data is probably enough.
Exactly. It's like choosing the right lens for your camera. If you're taking a picture of a landscape, you want a wide-angle lens. But if you're doing a close-up, you need a macro lens. And AmiBroker lets you switch between those lenses, depending on how much detail you need.
Okay, that makes sense. So we've got our databases, our watch lists are organized, and we understand the different types of data. I feel like we're finally ready to unleash the power of AmiBroker and start analyzing some stocks.
That's where the fun begins. Let's dive into AmiBroker's charting and analysis tools. That's really the heart of the software.
All right, let's get to the good stuff. We've covered a lot, setting up AmiBroker, getting our data organized. Now it's time for the tools, the stuff that'll actually help us understand all this information.
Time to get our hands dirty and start analyzing, right? AmiBroker's got all these charting and analysis tools that can help you find trends, spot trading opportunities, and test your strategies. This is where you actually turn data into insights you can use.
Talking about charts, I've always found them kind of intimidating, you know? All those lines and patterns, it feels like you're trying to like crack a code or something. So when we're looking at charts in AmiBroker, what are some of the key things we should be looking for?
Well, charts are basically just visual ways to see price data over time. It's a really good way to see how a stock has been doing, which can give you some clues about what it might do in the future. And AmiBroker is great for charting. You can customize them a ton. You can pick different types of charts like candlestick or bar charts. You can add indicators, draw trend lines, even write notes right on them.
Oh, cool. So it's not just staring at a static chart. We can actually interact with it and make it our own. But what about like the analysis part? Besides all the visual stuff, what should we be focusing on?
One of the most important things is figuring out the trend. Is the stock going up, down, or sideways? AmiBroker makes it really easy to see trends by drawing trend lines, which basically connect the important highs and lows on the chart.
Right. I've seen those before. So if I see a bunch of higher highs and higher lows connected by a line going up, that means the stock is in an uptrend, right? And if it's the opposite, lower highs and lower lows, that's a downtrend.
Exactly. Trends show us which way the price is moving overall. But what's even more interesting is when those trends start to change direction.
Ah, those are the big moments, the turning points. How can AmiBroker help us see those?
That's where chart patterns come in. There are these formations on the chart that happen over and over again. And a lot of times, they can tell you if a trend is about to reverse or keep going. The cool thing is, AmiBroker actually has something that can automatically recognize these patterns for you.
Wait, seriously, it can do that for us. That's amazing. It's like having a stock market detective built right in.
Yeah, it takes out some of the guesswork. Let's say you see a head and shoulders pattern. That one usually means an uptrend might be ending and it could reverse into a downtrend. It has 3 peaks. The middle one's the highest, that's the head, and the 2 on the sides are about the same height. Those are the shoulders.
So if I see that head and shoulders thing on a chart, I should be careful. The uptrend might be ending.
Right. It could be a sign that sellers are starting to take over from buyers. And with AmiBroker, you can spot these patterns early on, which could give you an advantage when you're trading.
I'm starting to see how powerful these visual cues can be. It's not just a bunch of random lines, it's like a whole language.
Exactly. And besides trend lines and chart patterns, AmiBroker has a ton of technical indicators that you can use to do even deeper analysis.
Yeah, I've heard of some of them like moving averages, AMI, RSI, but honestly, I never really understood how they worked. Can AmiBroker help with that?
For sure. Not only can you add these indicators to your charts, but AmiBroker also explains what they mean and how to interpret them. Take moving averages, for example. They basically smooth out the price data over a certain period of time, so it's easier to see the trend and those support and resistance levels.
So instead of just looking at the raw price data, which can be all over the place, the moving average gives you a clearer picture of what's going on.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And there are different kinds of moving averages, like simple, exponential, weighted. They each have their own quirks, and they work better for different types of analysis.
Oh, so you have to pick the right one for what you're trying to do.
Right, and that's where AmiBroker's learning resources are really helpful. They've got tutorials, documentation, even a forum where you can talk to other traders and get help.
That's really cool, especially for people like me who are still learning all this technical stuff. I have to say, the more we talk about AmiBroker, the more I'm realizing how powerful it really is.
It is, and one of the best things about it is that you can backtest your trading strategies.
Oh, backtesting, that's something I've always wanted to try. It's like testing your strategy on historical data to see how it would have done, right?
Yep, it's like a time machine for the stock market. You can basically simulate trades based on your rules and see how your strategy would have performed in the past.
So it's a way to make sure your ideas actually work before you risk real money.
It's super important for making sure your strategies are solid. Instead of just jumping in with a new idea, you can use AmiBroker to test it out on years of data. You can find problems, make adjustments, and be way more confident when you're actually trading.
So it's like a safety net. It helps you avoid those big mistakes.
Exactly. And AmiBroker's backtesting engine is really advanced. You can test all sorts of complex strategies with tons of indicators, entry and exit rules, even risk management stuff.
This is taking things to a whole other level. It's not just looking at charts and indicators anymore. It's about being systematic, testing your ideas, and always learning and getting better.
That's what's great about AmiBroker. It gives you the tools to be a more disciplined trader, someone who uses data to make decisions.
This has been an awesome journey. We started out kind of intimidated by AmiBroker, and now we're excited about all the possibilities. I know we still have a lot to learn, but we have a good foundation now.
Yeah, you've got a solid understanding of how to set up AmiBroker, organize your data, analyze charts, use indicators, even backtest your strategies. You're well on your way to becoming an AmiBroker expert.
And to everyone listening, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into AmiBroker. We hope you learned something new and are ready to start your own AmiBroker journey.
Remember, the market is always changing. It's a challenge. But with the right tools, and if you keep learning, you can navigate it and make the most of it.
Happy charting.